Ask It. We're in this series called Ask It. And to be honest with you, we as a church, we believe that your life can be better. And this series, to be honest with you, is one of those series that I know that if you're willing to kind of just listen and take in, your life will be better. There's certain messages that, kind of like, call us to maybe a different type of life, or, certain messages that, kind of like are very much like, pinpointed on issues of where we're at, and sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. But this series, I'll be honest with you, this series is all about how your life can be better. If you read those cards, really, it's like the subtitle, is the question that answers almost every other question. And so I'm going to bring forth a question to you guys today that we're going to kind of flesh out for the next 4 weeks in a little bit more detail. But I truly believe that this question, if you are to simply ask it, your life will be better. And obviously at Bridge Church, because we're a church and a Bible-believing church, we believe that the best possible way that your life can be better is if you have relationship with Jesus Christ. But I just want to throw this out there because some of you might not have relationship with Jesus Christ. Some of you might be even a little skeptical. Some of you might be, have gotten invited here, or some of you maybe thought it was something else that you came to, and that's fine. I just want to let you off the hook. Because I'm not asking you to believe in the Bible right now. I'm just simply putting forward something that whether you're a believer, whether you're a Jesus follower, whether you're a Christian or not, what I'm about to bring over the next 35 minutes, I know will make your life better. Regardless of where you're at spiritually, I know that this message is for you today. It's one of those messages, again, that it's like a blanket sermon. There's some sermons, there's some messages that, hit like maybe 20, maybe 40, maybe 60% of the people that are in the crowd. But I absolutely promise you, wherever you're at spiritually, that if you just listen intently for the next 35 minutes, your life will be better. Amen? So we're going to look at a portion of Scripture out of the book of Ephesians. And Ephesians 5, chapter 5, verses 15 to 17, was penned, by a guy by the name of Paul. And again, right off the hop, you again, depending on where you're at or whether you believe in the Bible, and I'm not asking you to believe in the entire Bible right now. I'm actually just going to focus on some words that were written by a guy that even like historians acknowledge he existed, and his name was Paul. And to be honest with you, whether you're a little skeptical or not, that your life can be better after hearing 40 minutes, the classic infomercial kind of guy. You know what? Let me just say that this guy that penned this probably had more in common with you than you might even think. And so this guy by the name of Paul, he used to go by the name of Saul, and he hated Jesus. He hated this Christian movement. He hated all these people that were deciding to follow the ways of Jesus simply because Jesus said, "Follow me." And to the point of where he didn't just hate, he hunted them. He would pursue these Christians, these ones that were following the way, and he would actually do whatever he could to get them in prison. He did whatever he could to kill them or to help lead to their deaths. And then in one moment, his life changed. It wasn't a process. It wasn't like a progression towards something different. In a moment, his life changed where he essentially went from Christian hunter to leader of the Christians. And let me just try to, explain what that might mean for us. Because, some of us are like, well, what do you mean like a moment? Like, how does one go from hating and doing whatever, building his life's purpose on bringing Christians down to essentially becoming the leader of the Christian movement, the writer of over 1/3 of the New Testament? If you've been married before, you've probably quoted this guy's words at your marriage. Love is patient, love is kind. This guy, he coined so much stuff that is simply biblical gold for us to dig and learn and cultivate and apply to our lives. He was a genius. But how does that happen in a moment? And it's honestly the easiest way I can explain it is simply like this. You're a Calgary Flames fan. and you're decked out like with face paint and jersey and short shorts, because Flames fans wear that kind of stuff, and you're on your way to the hockey game. You've got all your buddies around you. You're on your way, and then all of a sudden you have this enlightening moment where God just like comes and down on, and He says, "Why are you a Flames fan?" And immediately you choose to see the light and become a fan of the Edmonton Oilers. And then immediately, like this is like, that's huge, right? But immediately, instead of just becoming a fan of the Edmonton Oilers, you're out trying to convince all your Flames fans, your ex-Flames fans, because they're either going to become an Oilers fan or they're not going to be your friends anymore. And you're literally trying to do whatever you can to convince as much people that the Edmonton Oilers are the way, the truth, and the life when it comes to NHL hockey. But that's essentially what this like some of you are thinking, like I know Pastor Richard's thinking like that would take an act of God. And Paul would say that's exactly what happened. And he tells about it in Acts. You can read about his conversion. You can read about this great moment in his life. But he would simply say that's exactly what happened. It took an act of God. And so my point of telling you that is simply this, is you might have more in common with the guy that wrote these words than you even think, being maybe a little bit skeptical of how 40 minutes could change the trajectory of your life. So Paul goes and he writes this passage of Scripture, and basically he's writing it to the church in Ephesus, but really it's written to all the Christians in that time, and obviously to us even today. But he goes and writes the first 4 chapters, and he's basically teaching them like kind of the way to live. Like if you're a Jesus follower, this is the way to live. If you're a Jesus follower, this is the way to deal with deceit. If you're a Jesus follower, this is the way that you need to walk together in unity. And then he kind of just backs up a bit in this portion and kind of gives this little this baby step in a sense for how to kind of live the how-to part that he was kind of describing earlier, because some of it was rather confusing. And this is actually kind of neat, because if you're in this place right now, in this building, and you would say, I'm not really a Jesus follower, then that's great. You're in actually a great position, because you get to decide over the next 30 minutes whether or not to ask this question or not. But if you're a believer, if you're a Jesus follower, then honestly, this is kind of a requirement. It's kind of a command. It's kind of like, hey, you need to do this. If you would say that you've got Jesus in your life, then you need to carry out what I'm about to say, is what Paul says here. And so he gives this baby step. And this is how he starts it. He says, be very careful then how you live. And now live here, the reason it's highlighted is because live, essentially in the Hebrew, it actually is, it kind of means walk. And so he's saying, like, be careful how you walk in life, how you progress through life. And careful is actually, it's a visual term that's derived from the Hebrew word here. Is careful. And so it's a visual thing, basically meaning like don't be careless. Be careful how you walk. Like look in front of you, look around you, look behind you. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on as you walk, as you live. And then he carries on with this. He says, not as unwise, but as wise. And so what he's doing is he's actually taking the word wise and he's lining it up with the word careful, and he's taking the word unwise and he's lining it up with the word careless. And now careless just simply means, like, if you look at the biblical definition of a fool, it's somebody who's careless. And somebody who, kind of like does whatever with whomever, whenever they want, not understanding, not even caring about the fact that today's decisions affect tomorrow's lifestyle. Today's decisions affect the trajectory of your life. That's simply a careless person. That's simply a fool in biblical terms. And so he says, be careful. Be careful how you live. Think of what is going on around you, in front of you, behind you, beside you. Be careful. Be looking. Be aware. Walk as someone who's wise, not as unwise. And then he carries on with this. He says, go ahead, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. And now the reason opportunity is highlighted is because it's a word that means time. Be aware. Walk as wise, not as unwise. Making the most of every opportunity. Making the most of the time that you've been allotted. The time that you have. The time that's been given to you. Make the most of it. Like don't just let it fall. Don't just think like, well, it's a worthless hour. Like, make the most of every opportunity that you've been given. Time, you guys know this. This isn't just, Pastor Dave bringing something new. You know that time is your most valuable resource. Once it's spent, it's gone. If your money's spent, you can go and you can make more money. But time, it's like a one-time deal. You have it and then you don't. And so Paul is saying, hey, like, make the most of every opportunity. And then he says, because the days are evil. Now, I know like us in church, we see the word evil and we're like, evil, that is evil. That's so evil, that's like demonic evil. I'm just going to stomp on it. And that's kind of but really what he's saying is like the days are evil. It's not like the days were like evil in a literal sense of like just like, oh, everything's bad. But this is what he's saying. This is what I kind of take from this is like the flow of culture is countercultural to the way that we should be living as Jesus followers. Right? And you think about this, like society, the way that, it's kind of like marketed to us, the way that it's kind of like pushed to us, the way that it's kind of like modeled to us, by different, spheres of influence, it's evil. Because this is what he's saying, if you walk carelessly, if you're not like aware of what's in front of you and beside you and behind you and around you and above you, then you're just going to simply walk careless and you're kind of going to go with the flow of culture. And I know, speaking personally, and I'm sure you would attest to this as well, you know that if you just kind of go with the flow, if you kind of like go with what's, what's acceptable, go with, kind of like what you can get away with, you're going to end up in a place that you're like, snap, how the heck did I get here? Because you're not choosing to walk aware of what's around you, beside you, behind you. And that's what Paul is saying. And then listen, then he says this. Go ahead to the next one there. And he says, therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. This is what Paul said. Paul is saying, come on. Don't be stupid. Don't be an idiot. Like, don't just think that you can just kind of cruise life without being careful of where you place your foot, without being careful of where you place your money, without being careful of where you place your heart. He says, don't be dumb. Like, literally, like, think and understand what the Lord's will is for you. And this is, I think, what he's saying is because, like, we as Christians, we as Jesus followers, we kind of always look for, like, loopholes. Kind of look like ways to, kind of like, well, I can do this. Like, for instance, like myself. Like, I recently upgraded my motorcycle to something with, like, more power than a chick bike. And it was revolutionizing for me, And it's a lot easier to speed on a more powerful motorbike. Just throwing that out there. Maybe Adam, you just plug your ears for a sec here. Police officer, but it's so much easier to speed, and so I kind of justify it by saying, well, it's a motorbike. I mean, I just told my brother we went for a ride yesterday. I was like, you know what? These things aren't made to go 50. They'll overheat. That you need to go fast, And so again, we just inherently we look for loopholes. Like we hear things like, like other scripture verses that kind of like call us to a higher point of living. And we kind of look for loopholes. Well, you know what? But there's also the fact that His grace is sufficient for me. And so we kind of look at like, what can I get away with? What can I do? And Paul is simply saying, don't be an idiot. Understand what God's will is for you. And so we honestly get this question from this portion of Scripture, and basically the crux of it, if we back up a verse, was this. It says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Because it's not necessarily like in life that we go asking the question of, like, what can I get away with? Or what is beneficial to me right now? Or what is right? Or honestly, even the, like, what is legal? This is, honestly, guys, this is a better question than what is right, what is legal, what can I get away with, what is good? And the question is simply this, is what is the wise thing for me to do? What is the wise thing for me to do? In life, when you're faced with, a decision, an opportunity, an invitation, like, what is the wise thing for me to do? Should I pig out on this stuff? Or is it detrimental to my health? What is the wise thing for me to do? Should I sell my house? What's the wise thing for me to do? Should I sell my motorbike? No. But what's the wise thing for me to do? Because this is the thing, honestly, people, we this is a magic 8-ball, if you've ever seen one. And the premise of it, and this is why it's so attractive, is because, I have a question in life. What should I do, magic 8-ball? Outlook, good. What should I do, magic 8-ball? Should I get married? Better not tell you now. Right? Like we look at these things and we're just like, what can help me in life? What can help me succeed? What can help me, accomplish, like my future hopes and dreams? What can help me? But Paul is saying, don't be stupid. Just simply ask yourself, what is the wise thing for me to do? This is a tremendously powerful question that I think is going to help you in life succeed on a greater level. Because when you think, listen to this, when you think of your greatest kind of regrets, when you think of like the most tears shed, when you think of the most maybe money lost, when you think of the most, time wasted, it's simply because we weren't asking this question. We were simply walking life, kind of going with the flow of culture, the evil days that Paul writes about in Ephesians. And he's simply saying, hey, just all you got to do is just simply ask yourself, what is the wise thing? And then to make it personal, for me to do. Because maybe the wise thing for you might be different than the wise thing for you. But honestly, when you think of your regrets, if you were to simply overlay this question over that, you would say, oh, snap. Where was this question 10, 15, 20 years ago? So what I'm going to do here right now is I'm going to kind of like break this question down. We're going to kind of like, expand it in a three-dimensional sense. And so the way that I want to ask this question is simply like this, and it's in light of my past experiences, what is the wise thing for me to do? And now this is key, because listen to this. If you've tuned me out already, just come back and listen to this, okay? My past is not your past, and your past is not my past. And your past is not your spouse's past. And your past is not your boss's past. Your past is not even your parents' past. Your past is your past. And so really, when you think about that, like my vice or my struggles are not your struggles, right? Like when you think of an alcoholic, somebody who's like a recovered alcoholic, they know this. In light of my past experience, I've always struggled with drinking way too much. So what's the wise thing for me to do is maybe to not set foot in a place where there's alcohol that's freely drinking. Sure, let's go with that. Right? Because their past is their past, and my past is my past, and your past is your past. When you think about, again, your biggest regrets, your biggest struggles, your biggest moments in your life where you're just like, oh, what was I thinking? It's because you weren't thinking of this question of, in light of my past experience, what's the wise thing for me to do right now? Like, this is kind of unfortunate, but we think that we can manage outcomes. We think that, like we could tell our wife, honey, it's okay. I know what happened last time, but I got it this time. We somehow have this Superman complex that we're just like, I know what's happened every other time. I know what's happened every other time that my friend has come with me with an investment opportunity. I know that it's tanked. I know that it's cost us financially. But honey, this one is gold because it's computer related. I can take care of this. Or what happened last time you phoned her back? What happened last time you stayed overnight? What happened last time you had maybe one too many drinks? What happened last time? Like thinking about that, thinking about where you've come from, thinking about your past experiences. What is the wise thing for you to do? In light of you might be like recently divorced. And you might be thinking, well, I just need to find the one. But maybe you've been divorced like 2 or 3 times already. So in light of your past experience, what's the wise thing for you to do? Next, we're going to look at, in light of my present circumstance, what is the wise thing for me to do? Like maybe you just recently got married. Maybe you just recently had a baby. Maybe you just recently decided to, kind of give your life to Jesus. And so in light of your present circumstance, what's the wise thing for you to do right now? Like I know in my life, I didn't answer this question the right way. And I've shared this before, but, we a bunch of guys, that we get together and we go dirt biking every year in late April. And Mother's Day, early May is when we, used to go. But, early May was, it was like Mother's Day. And I was, kind of sort of recently married the first time, second time I went. And, but ironically, we just had our first child, shortly before that. And it was my wife's first Mother's Day. And I didn't ask this question. I didn't ask, in light of my present circumstance, what's the wise thing for me to do? Because I chose to go dirt biking while my wife stayed at home on her very first Mother's Day. And it was messy. It was not cool. But it was brought on by myself. And so maybe you're in a new job. And maybe you're thinking, well, I've always done it this way. I've always taken 2 weeks off to go houseboating on the Shuswaps. I've always done that. But I just started a new job. And so maybe in light of my present circumstance of the fact that if I ask for 2 weeks off 3 days after starting, that might not look good. And so asking yourself, in light of my present circumstance, what's the wise thing for me to do? And then thirdly, and I think actually it's the most powerful aspect of this, is in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? I think every one of us in here has probably experienced some heartache in a sense because we weren't thinking of our future hopes and dreams when we were making decisions, when we were given opportunities or when we were, extended an invitation. And honestly, what a tragedy it is to trade tomorrow for something today that you won't own tomorrow. Think of it relationally. You've got like hopes and dreams to be married and have the perfect family, but right now, I just want this one night stand. And it's something that you then have to bring into your marriage and you have to kind of flesh out with your wife or your spouse and the heartache that it's caused because you weren't thinking of your future hopes and dreams, you were just thinking now. Whether it's like business, whether it's relationships, whether it's marriage, whether it's like financial things, like think about like what if you were to right now, and I know that here's the thing, I know that these questions aren't going to help with your past, but I guarantee that if you implement this type of stuff, it's going to affect your future positively. What if we were in that place to say, you know what? I want to be there someday. And so we were actually making decisions that helped, that contributed, that led to us getting to where we want to be. And when this is, whether it's like a materialistic goal, whether it's like, a Jesus goal, whether it's, even just a life goal, it's like literally thinking, what if we made decisions based on my future hopes and dreams? Because again, I think that if you're to just think of your greatest regret, your greatest expense wasted, your greatest amount of tears, your greatest amount of heartache, I think is because we weren't asking this question. In light of where I want to be in the future, what's the wise thing for me to do right now? Because you're all smart people. I don't think any one of you is dumb. I don't think any of you is unwise. And so I think that you know the answer, because I think sometimes we kind of think like, oh, my life is such a mess. How did it end up here? Oh man, I am completely broke. How in the world did I get to this place? Man, I keep on giving my heart away to whoever will give me a little ounce of love, and I keep on getting hurt, and I'm just like, how did I end up here? And the reason I say that you're smart is because I think you know exactly how you got there. I think you know exactly how you got to the place where you're just like, what have I done? And it's because you weren't asking this question. Some of you might be thinking, well, use the phrase, well, history repeats itself. And I think it's simply because we're not making wise decisions. Because we keep doing what we think is best for right now, rather than thinking of where I'm at right now, rather than thinking of my past experiences, rather than thinking of my future hopes and dreams. And so the question in its entirety is written just simply like this. In light of my past experiences, in light of my present circumstances, and in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? And so I'm just going to simply ask, just again, because I firmly believe that if you were to implement this question into every decision, opportunity, every invitation, everything that you're looking at, I firmly believe that it will change the trajectory of your life to one where it simply can be summed up by this word, better. Because again, that's what we do here at Bridge Church. I want every single person that sets foot in this church, whether you're in this crowd, whether you're in the kids' crowd, to walk out knowing that your life can be better. And so would you repeat this question after me? In light of my past experiences, present circumstances, and future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? Because I know right now you might be thinking, man, I wish that my dad was here. Who needs to hear this? Let me tell you, is my ex-wife. Holla, But honestly, this is for you. I know that. I've been in church before where I'm just like, man, my wife needs to hear this. This is so good. But somehow we kind of forget that maybe it's for us too. And so again, let's read it again. In light of my past experiences, present circumstance, future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? And let me just be clear, because I know some of you are thinking right now, well, Pastor, great question, but I'm not wise. I don't rank very high on the wise scale. If there was like a 0 to 10, you could put me at like a high 1 or a low 2. That's where I rank. But here's the thing, okay? Think about this question right now. To some decision, some opportunity, some invitation that you're facing right now. And ask yourself this question. Go ahead. This is why I say every one of you is wiser than you think. Because right now, if you're hearing something that sounds vaguely familiar to maybe what your parents have been telling you, you're a lot wiser than you think. Right? Husbands, if you're asking this question and it's sounding a lot like what your wife has been telling you, you're a lot wiser than you think. Employers, employees, if you're asking this question and it sort of sounds like what your coworkers or what your boss or what your employees have been telling you, you're a lot wiser than you think. And perhaps the greatest miracle is, wives, if you're asking this question and it sounds like what your husband is saying, he's a lot wiser than you think. This question, people, I promise, and we're gonna kind of like look at it, kind of more in depth over the next 3 weeks. But I promise you that you, A, are wiser than you think, and B, you can simply ask it. Because today's takeaway is simply this. Ready? It's real simple. Ask it.